Silver Spoon's inner flame is his desire for candle. You heard me. Silver's inner flame is the manifestation of his soul, the desires that burn the most in his heart. But so much of how he feels is reliant on Candle, which is why his desire for her is powering his abilities. So, how did we get here? Hello, it's been a while since this channel has heard my voice. Some things have changed since then, like my mic quality, my amazing sprites drawn by my amazing friend Yam. But one thing has not changed. My insanity. My inanimate insanity. I'm Tweak and I have loved Inanimate Insanity for nearly half my entire life. It's been one of the things I've been most passionate about in all of these years and remains my favourite show ever. Which is why I've decided to write a 9,000 plus word analysis of Silver and Candle's relationship. Woohoo! I originally wanted to do this on Nickelodeon about a year ago since they're my favourite couple in II, but they got to their happy marriage before I could do it. But Silvercandle. How are we doing, Silvercandle Nation? I know, it's not been easy for me either. So I thought I'll have a bit of fun and put them under my microscope to figure out how we got to episode 18. According to Justin Chapman, voice of Silver and a writer on the show, Silver and Candle are intertwined forces of nature. Which begs the question, how are they intertwined? The easiest way to start would be looking at the end. Episode 18. Let's talk about it. Silver's inner flame has likely killed Candle, I will say it, but why? It sort of says why, but it doesn't exactly add up. The last time they talked they were on good terms. The problem had been talked about, Silver was growing apart from Candle as she'd wished, and he was focusing on his own inner flame. But that's just it, he was doing as she wished. Which is why I say that Silver Spoon's truest inner flame is his desire for Candle. I could honestly just show you the scene from episode 17 and then end the video here, since that alone gives us enough proof that Silver at least has a crush on her, but I won't. I will mention it though, it's very unlike Silver, isn't it? Silver Spoon, who always puts himself first and above others, wanting to impress Candle? In episode 15, Silver basically says that he was existing to serve her needs, and given his fantasy in episode 17 is just him continuing to do that, acting as a knight in shining armor for her if you will, it doesn't seem like he doesn't want to. Candle always had a lot of authority over him from the beginning when they first met. When they form an alliance to try and take out Nickelodeon, he follows. When she asks him to do something, he does it, and he does it for her gain. And after all of this, he still daydreams about a scenario where he can serve and protect her. But when Blueberry takes over the game, Silver serves him very begrudgingly, doing it only to secure himself a spot in the final 3. So why does he enjoy serving Candle? He dedicates an entire episode to getting her back in the game. Why, if he knew that they would have to fight for the prize later and it would lessen his chances of winning? He wouldn't do the same if he was paired with someone else unless it got him immunity, and even then, he wouldn't have served any of the other Indefinite Islanders the way he served Candle. He does the same thing in the Glacier Challenge in episode 11, saving Candle before she's about to get out of the challenge. But why did he save her if her falling would have gotten him closer to winning? There have been a lot of why Candles in this, but we know the answer. We can boil it down to his little crush, sure, but that isn't even clearly established until episode 17. So why does this guy who only cares about himself suddenly care so much about someone else? He is devoted to her. This much is made obvious by the conversation they have in episode 15. But how did we get here? Well, really, we can base everything going forward on their first scene. Let's go back to the very first episode, the very first time they met. Candle grabs his hand and says that he's destined for a leap of faith and leads him off the cliff through the challenge without a hitch. He's impressed but covers it up as if he was annoyed by being swayed under someone else's direction, let alone someone who he later calls stupid just for talking. Candle herself here admits that he's destined for a leap of faith. This could just be written off as a quirky new character talking in her unique way, but I think she was right. Destiny is not something Candle jokes about. We've seen that time and time again. If she knew Silver was destined to take the leap of faith with her, she would have gone straight for him and encouraged him to take that leap, which she did. Though there's nothing particularly magical about this, it's Silver's initial impression of Candle. that if he puts his faith in her, taking that leap of faith, he can succeed. Despite this, he bottles up his impression, and the bottling up is something Silver will continue to do throughout, causing their downfall in episode 18. Let's do an overview of Silver and Candle's development through their most prevalent episodes, starting with episode 4, just so that we're all on the same page here. He initially targets Candle because of her impeccable leadership over the Thinkers in episodes 2 and 4. Her ability to keep them all in control, even Silver, when they had to decide the team name, proved her to be most fit for the role, despite 4 people on the team mentally fighting for it. And Silver Spoon cannot be seen working under another person, no. That would mean he isn't on top. That would mean he isn't worth anything. To Silver Spoon, to be good, you have to be the best. Naturally, with an ego that large, an attitude that spoiled, a mentality like this will form. But we know Silver is battling a deeper set of insecurities. They hint at it in episode 3 when he admits to hating pictures he even takes of himself. But his inner flame fully exposes him in episode 18, basically telling inner flame Candle that he quite normally feels like nothing. Even the colour coding on his inner flame powers hints to this, but I will get there. He targets Candle because by her being herself, it outshines him in comparison and makes him feel like nothing. In his confessional, he says he's annoyed by the fact that she always knows exactly what to do and say without trying at all. Essentially annoyed that she was a born leader. This hatred is completely unprovoked by any of her actions towards him, meaning it's an internalized battle within Silver. It's a one-sided rivalry he creates and carries in his own head to battle the feelings of incompetence. And when he suggests voting Candle off and Paintbrush says no because she's the best one at keeping them together, unlike, it cuts to Silver. Here, Paintbrush is verbalizing Silver's exact thoughts. Silver finds it hard to believe that a person, let alone a person of lesser value than him, can just be a good leader. So when he jokingly asks Candle if she uses her spiritual mumbo jumbo to know all the answers, and she actually answers with yes, he has to find out more. Because obviously it's her spirituality and her magic that's making people like her, right? And surely it's something he can use to get people to like him as well. Upon Silver realizing he has a chance to sway the vote against Candle, she already knows these are his intentions and agrees to take him to the volcano to teach him a lesson. Call it luck or plot if you will, but I truly believe Candle calculates a lot more of her moves than we give her credit for. She didn't take him here just to save herself, she did it to teach him. Both times she teaches him a lesson. We see a moment where she flips, as if we're watching her plan unfold right in front of us. But what did she have to teach? She lists Silver's aura as purple in episode 7, and a quick Google search suggests that purple auras have a connection to spirituality or a desire to become more spiritual. Here I'll also point out that Candle is purple. If she knew he was destined to take a leap of faith with her, maybe this is destiny coming into fruition. By taking Silver to the volcano and putting them both in a life-threatening situation, she was able to share the true power of her inner flame and pique his interest. She's a proclaimed master of the inner flame. Even Justin says she's worked very hard to control it, so she knows it would be able to save them. She uses this threat to stress to Silver the importance of it. Every time we see Candle use her powers, they're to help. First Silver Spoon, then to help her team get the budget for the animation, to foresee the future of her team, and to attempt to protect Mephone in episode 18. There is no doubt that her innermost passion, what the fire within her represents, reflects her desire to be of aid to others. We know this leaks into her consciousness as well as of episode 11 when she realizes her team doesn't need her anymore. We also know that she doesn't like using it trivially. She goes off at Silver for doing just that. She doesn't show off her powers to the rest of the team, she doesn't even use them around them as far as we know until episode 9. So she certainly didn't just use them to keep herself in the game. Perhaps she knows that their flames are destined to be intertwined. They fall and the flame activates just like Candle anticipates, saving them. And as Silver is dangling inches away from the lava, only saved from death by her, her inner flame asks if he sees his answer, if he sees how to eliminate her. He waits a few seconds before saying, "I think so." It was all clear. He had to work with Candle, not against her. So he does. He asks who she wants to see leave and he makes it happen, his first act of service. But not before asking how he can find his inner flame. It seems like genuine interest, but as it goes on, it seems like he really just wants it to distract from his insecurity. The shot cuts off before she finishes giving him the answer, so we're left in the dark about what it could have been. The only indication being that they worked together to eliminate OJ immediately after. This could imply that the end of her answer to him asking how he could find his inner flame was simply not to vote her out. She's a master of the inner flame. Silver wouldn't know where to begin without her. So, is all of this really just for magic powers? If it was, why was having the powers by episode 18 still not enough for him? Why did he need Candle's singular vote? We'll get there, don't worry. But first, the real effect of his attachment growing. Silver's first fight for validation from Candle. At the end of the elimination, when it's been revealed that OJ is the first eliminated thinker, Silver makes a speech bragging about how he got OJ out, as if explaining it to the team will make it seem smart and worth congratulating. Paintbrush tells him to stop, and he doesn't. He continues talking, waiting for someone to say "Good work, Silver." He gets so desperate that he turns to Candle directly, and only then, when she tells him to back down, does he back down. It really hurts him here that he didn't get the support he was expecting from her. After though, Candle initiates a group cheer, and Silver doesn't expect to be included in it because of how he played the game. But even though Candle wasn't happy with how he handled the elimination, she includes him anyway. This begins the split between his relationship with Candle and the game. This action alone makes Silver feel part of something. Like, even if he's playing the game like this, he does belong somewhere with Candle. So, episode 4. That's a doozy, right? We all know it doesn't stop there. This is just the beginning of what would be a game-changing dependency for Silver. Throughout the next few episodes, we mostly just see Silver's chase for affirmation continue, and things between him and Candle are good. Candle thanks him for stepping up, and riding the high of her approval, he appoints himself the new leader of the Thinkers. But we also see him still call her his enemy, trying to figure out how to use her powers for his own ego-fulfilling desires like in episode 10. Nonetheless, he remains obsessed with her. Paintbrush even notes that after the teams are shuffled, Candle and Silver end up on opposing teams, that Silver's improvement has been reverting. But why? Was he just being a better team player so that he could hear the team approve of him? To hear Candle approve of him? He still has Paintbrush on the team, so why doesn't he care what they think of him? Candle always had a hold on the team, even Silver. Her impact was positive on him. After she collected the group together in episode 2, Silver treated Flory like a friend, laughing at his joke when just minutes earlier he was insulting him. So, with them separated, things would change. Episode 11 finally reunites them, stronger than ever. You know what they say, distance does make the heart grow fonder. At this point, the alliances are split into the Old Thinkers and the Loony Balloonies. And despite having her old team back, Candle realizes that they don't need her guidance the way that they used to. Not feeling of aid to people makes her feel useless, and so she goes to Silver, the one who needs her the most. This finally opens up her side of vulnerability in the relationship that wasn't reciprocated before, making it become clear that Candle needs Silver to feel fulfilled the same way that Silver needs Candle. Despite this vulnerability being shown on both sides now, they maintain their, dare I say it, submissive and dominant roles in the relationship. They reunite when Silver tries to trade his pet away, and Candle scolds him for not attempting to train it at all. She says the line, "When you treat others well, they stay loyal back," which is obviously what's happening in this relationship, and gives us a glimpse into her view of loyalty. But here, she's trying to teach it into him as well. Silver is quite mean to the others and doesn't try to hide how much better he thinks he is than them. One of the ways Candle has managed to be a good leader in the past is by treating the others well. Point misses though, Silver teases her a bit for acting like that, and then without hesitation agrees to work with her when she tells him he should be asking for her help. But then, Nickel tempts Silver into joining his alliance by taking advantage of his need to be seen as useful and smart and a good leader. And who notices immediately? Candle. Candle foresees betrayal at the beginning of the episode, so naturally she's worried about her place in the game, especially knowing that she isn't particularly of use to the people she used to be. So when she sees Silver flip to the other side, she's worried that he's the same. She doesn't sit still though, she knows the power she has over Silver and she knows she has to keep them together. So she calls for him. Notice the way she says his name with authority, not just this time, but all the other times she's intended to put him in his place. And how well that works for her. The second Silver hears his name from behind him, his previous confidence leading the Looney Balloonies vanishes and he follows her immediately. Candle's naturally worried knowing Silver's past track record of trying to vote her out of nowhere. But the conversation that follows is extremely important to their relationship and the dynamic they've created. Silver tells her he doesn't know why she bothers with the team, mockingly calling them the family and dismissing the idea that they mean that much to him. He says it in episode 6 to his own teammate at the time as well, and continues this mentality throughout. His teammates are just there to get him further in the game. But he saves Candle time and time again. Silver takes control of the conversation and tells her that they've outgrown her. But without hesitation, Candle asks back, "And have you?" His expression changes. He knows she has a point. Silver is the only one who paired up with Candle in what was seemingly her most useless episode by the team's standards. She even brings this up in her exit interview and says it was interesting how he was the one who had not moved on from her, when she was sure he would too. This conversation will end up being the basis for a lot of Silver's trials going forward. He is still dependent on Candle. But it's not like Candle helped him win the challenge, so what is he so dependent on her for? At this point, she's not helping him become a better leader or giving him magic powers. Candle initially threatens to do something if Silver dares flip to the other side, supposedly getting her alliance to vote him out. They outnumber the Looney Balloonies, so it would go off without a hitch. But she reconsiders and flips with him. Elimination, Candle tells the Old Thinkers that they don't need her anymore and she's taking the game into her own hands, which means that something from the last conversation with Silver stuck with her. Possibly now she knows for sure that Silver hasn't outgrown her. She needs him and he needs her. She knows at this point that they need to stick together and separating them would turn them against each other quickly. So now the contestants left are split into two alliances. But when you look closely at the Looney Balloonies, you notice that it's not really a whole alliance. It's really Nickelodeon and Bot versus Silvercandle, which leads us into the episode that gets Candle eliminated. Episode 13 continues Silver's battle of choosing between the game or Candle. Keep in mind, up until this point, nearly everything he has done away from Candle has been to aid himself in the game. He has made it very clear that he came here to win. It starts with Silver and Candle working seemingly against the other half of their alliance already. Candle uses her salt crystal and tuning fork to calm Silver, once again gaining control of him. He asks if he can have it, possibly to possess that same power, and she says, "Over my dead body," which is a really funny joke, Candle. This is important to remember for the end of the episode. The two work together to tear apart their alliance. From the inside, it's them against the world at this point. They come up with a master plan to remind Nickel of his old best friend using Cabby's file that was obtained from her by Silver, seemingly under Candle's direction. Silver also saves Candle from losing the challenge when the rest of the alliance was turning against each other, even Bot and Nickel trying to fight for immunity. Bot kicks Candle towards the water, but Silver saves her before she falls in, which surprises Bot and throws them off long enough for them to get out. Again, why did he save her? He's done his fair share of manipulating and scheming. He could have very easily continued talking to Nickel about baseball on his own. And if Candle had fallen, it would have been more likely for him to get the immunity that he later grabs. Ultimately, it doesn't win either of them immunity due to Nickel's luck, but Balloon does offer it to them, and they do pass it between each other a few times. Here, Silver's being generous, but he eventually decides to take it, not thinking much of it, because how could they lose? They lose. Balloon turns rogue and votes for Candle, and suddenly Silver's whole world crashes down on him, because this is his fault. Even if he did save her in the challenge, he took the cookie from her. We see him doubt himself the second she gets a single vote, even when at that point they're sure they're going to win still. Almost like the mere idea of losing her and having it be his fault was too much for him. And in comes the hardest part, the actual separation. Candle prepares to leave and Silver chases after. He taps her to get her attention, and this look. It looks like he has so much more he wants to say, to apologize for, but he can't even talk. She doesn't even give him a chance to before he hands him the tuning fork and crystal that he asked for earlier and says it's a gift for his loyalty to her. Here, she's essentially giving him the power that she had, which Silver views as a responsibility that she has trusted him with, not as a thank you gift. Then, we get a shot. This shot is what I consider the defining shot of Silver's mind, especially given it's a shot from his POV. He holds both Candle's gift and the immunity cookie in each hand, and he looks down at them, shaking. He's being forced to make the choice. Which means more to him, Candle or the game? Right before Candle is punched into the sky, he calls out to her, asking for her to wait. He waves specifically that hand with the cookie, indicating that the game is his regret, the thing he would have given up had she waited. He's made the choice at this point, but Miphone doesn't give them a chance to talk it out, and Silver's alone. According to Justin, what Silver would have wanted to say to her before she got punched was anything. Anything at all. This alone proves to me that it's not about the game to him anymore, it's about her. Put yourself in Silver's shoes for a moment. Silver, who plays a very stuck-up and egotistical persona, values himself above other people, finally caring for someone else, and caring about her so much. Not realizing how much it would hurt when the game he was playing takes her away. I believe a lot of Silver's dependencies don't just rely on Candle's control or his own insecurity. A lot of it is just how strongly he cares for her. Before this, he had mostly cared about only himself, and in a way that can be seen as very self-obsessed. And even then, he's not free of insecurities, so how much of that was honest care? It only makes sense that when that obsessive care transfers to someone he deems worthy of it, that care is as strong as it was, if not more, because it would be rid of insecurity. Justin also said that being split from Candle had Silver feeling a certain way, which we see play out following her elimination. And thus begins Silver's "no one can stop me" arc. Silver's closest ally, the only other person in the game that he actually cared about, is gone, and it's his fault. He knows this, and the guilt is eating him up inside, so he can't let her sacrifice go to waste. Now, he's not fighting for himself to win, he's fighting for Candle to win, which is probably what gets him to the final 3 eventually. And as he says, no one will get in his way. In episode 14, he manipulates Yang, Candle's other ally, and tries to get him to mess up, using Candle as the motive. He talks about how Candle hurt them and silenced Yang's truest desires to be chaotic and out of control. In this sense, he's also trying to get Yang to turn against Candle, her other closest ally besides Silver in the game. He does this using the gift she gave him, controlling Yang the way she controlled the team, except she used it to unite them. Silver is doing the opposite. Before sending Yang out of the challenge, Yang calls Silver his trusty steed, putting Silver below him. But when Silver takes him out, he reclaims the top spot, calling Yang my beast, re-emphasizing that he doesn't want to be below anyone but Candle. And then he drops Yang, and in the confessionals where he says that he's doing this all because she got eliminated. He doesn't want to waste the chance that she gave him, or, moreover, the chance that he took from her. But when he's alone, we see the effects of Candle's separation from him more genuinely. Without anyone else around, he doesn't have to put on a show. So when the fake Candle appears again and offers her hand, he takes it, because that's what he truly wants. If I had just wanted to say literally anything to her before she left, seeing her again, even as a toy, would have fulfilled him genuinely. It's the same routine they always do, ever since they met. Candle takes his hand and he follows her, putting his blind faith into her, and they succeed. That's what this challenge was meant to prove. But he rejects it. "I can do this without you," he says, trying to convince himself that that fact is true. But by rejecting his true desires here, he fails the challenge, which leads us into episode 15. Very luckily for Silver, he doesn't have to deal with the absence of Candle for too long, because the next episode is the rejoin challenge! Flory pairs up an eliminated contestant with a remaining contestant, and their goal is to solve the mystery of Blueberry's murder. So naturally, Silver and Candle are paired together, as they always are. Almost like fate is pushing them together. Or Flory is just fantastic at matchmaking. Silver and Candle are very happy to see each other initially, Silver a little too much so, as he sheepishly laughs off how enthusiastically he said her name when he saw her. You gotta admit, despite everything, it is adorable to see Candle bring out an entirely different side to him. When Silver sees her, he's very proud to report to her that he's remained attached to her and her gifts, just as she wanted. but Candle isn't very happy to hear it. So clearly it wasn't what she wanted at all. When she gave Silver the gifts, she meant it as a way for him to learn the game on his own, to take what she's given him and continue forward with it on his own path. But instead, he interpreted it as her wanting him to remain attached and obedient to her ways. Realizing this, Candle does her classic switch, just like the one in episode 4. She sees an opportunity to teach him, and she takes it. She lowers her voice and tells him that this is his chance to get her back in the game, to make up for his arrogance getting her out, automatically setting up her plan to have him obey her for the whole day. Again, Candle calculates her moves very well, all in order to teach Silver a lesson. Candle leads their investigation for the whole day, but you could hardly call it an investigation. She makes him retrace Blueberry's exact steps, making him retry about 100 times, telling him he's doing it wrong every single time. At this point though, she doesn't even have a working theory or any real conclusion for the evidence to go towards. What they end up going with in the end doesn't even mention the exact number of steps Blueberry takes before he dies, which is proof in itself that this entire day is planned by Candle. She just makes him repeat his actions over and over and over until he's unable to anymore, to teach him that blindly following her diminishes his worth and his chance at winning. Still, even when he's worn out from failing so much, he's very passionate about getting her back into the game. Even when they do talk about it, he's not really mad at her for ordering him around, he's just exhausted from trying so hard and it not working. He also says that it's almost like you want me to stop serving you, not that he had a problem with doing it. She tells him that is exactly what she wanted to do, again confirming that she didn't prioritize the rejoin challenge over Silver. She, as well as Silver, have made the choice between each other and the game, and they have both chosen each other. But as well, she affirms him. She says that he can't let his mistake consume him. She says that they make for a great pair, she agrees with him on that. She says that he's not nothing without her, and she values his theory. And when he feels strong enough to return her gifts, she says, now, you can tend to your inner flame. And then, the inner flame is born. So what do we think spawned that, huh? How is it that this whole time, serving her, playing the game, none of that has awakened his inner flame? Why is it that now he's received her validation, they've worked together on the same level, and she's encouraged it to come out, that it's come out? It could be argued that the inner flame only comes out because the attachment to Candle is gone, but thanks to episode 18 we know that's not the case at all. The attachment is still there, oh boy is it still there. The attachment is the inner flame, which means ultimately his admiration for Candle is his innermost desire. Now that we're on the same page about their development and the intentions behind everything, let's talk about the inner flame itself, starting with everything we know about it from Candle's side. The inner flame has a mind of its own, but it can be willingly activated by its user. We know that this is true for both Candle and Silver by episode 18, but we see from Silver that it's not consistently controlled by its user upon its first forming. It's firstly shown when he feels extreme emotions, notably anger, and then Mifune himself summons it just by asking. But by the last episode, Silver seems to have more of a grasp on it. Candle has a capable hold of her flame throughout the entire season naturally. She's very good at it because she's cool and stuff. This means that even the first time she activated it in episode 4, it wasn't because of Silver blowing out her outer flame, which is the misunderstanding that Silver carries throughout the season. We know for sure that she can still function when the outer one is blown out. So Candle probably presented it this way so that he had the wrong idea and didn't learn how to control an inner flame preemptively, as it's something she wants him to learn over time. Which makes sense, because according to Justin, it's a dangerous creature that she tries very hard to keep in check. And we've seen what it's capable of when it isn't kept in check. Speaking of, we know that Silver at least blanks out when it's in use. He reports this over the courses of 16 and 17 as it slowly develops, but it's especially clear in episode 18 when he regains consciousness after Candle falls to the ground. He looks confused and shocked, not like this was a conscious choice that he made. But we can assume that Candle can either retain consciousness when she's using hers, or it's very in tune with her actual self, as the two work in tandem. But Silver can't because he's not ready. He hasn't trained like her, he doesn't even fully realize the power at this point. And, most importantly, he's not very in tune with himself, which is why he messes up in episode 18. Based on the name and the fact that it's not linked to a user's body but their mind, we can guess that an inner flame is a person's innermost desires, a fire within its user. We know that Candle uses hers to aid and protect people as well as to teach them about the flame, a prime example being Silver in episode 4. She says that the inner flame is very important to the world and to her, so it makes sense that her desires are to use them for good and teaching. But Silver's, we know he originally wanted the power for trivial purposes, and he still shows them off like that in episode 18. But when they reach their fullest power in the same episode, we realise that his desires are for her. Her approval. Her vote. To impress her. That is the reason he shows them off. Not to woo the jury, to show her. The inner flame admits this when confronting her, and in episode 17, when he imagines literally saving her with his powers, it emphasises that. His ideal episode of II is one where he doesn't use the powers for popularity or to control the team. It's to impress Candle and save her the same way she did to him in episode 4. He also corrects her saying that he's a spoon in silver armour, which brings me to the point of him turning gold. Why does he turn gold? Put simply, it's a visual representation of how Silver feels with the powers and with Candle. Gold is better than silver. We know Silver Spoon is very insecure. He hates how he looks in photos, he's not rich, he needs others' approval to feel like more than nothing. He laughs at any wealth below his, which is the basis for where this attachment has even come from. But the powers make him gold. They make him richer, better, which is why he corrects her. He wants her to see him as gold, not as silver.
The artist's intentions? When has that been relevant?
Okay then, explain why the inverse of Silvercandle's inner flames are each other's flame colours. Why is Silver's flame green when it doesn't really fit his palette at all? Candle's is purple, she's purple. Silver's isn't a warm colour for his gold coating or like a blue for a silver coating. It's green, which is the inverse of purple. If Silver's flame is his desire for Candle, it only makes sense that it would be the inverse of hers. Their flames are destined to be entwined after all.
Our flames need not be entwined.
Boy, does he have no idea. This is another one of Silver's many, many lines, if that wasn't obvious enough. If they aren't meant to be intertwined, why does Justin describe them that way? We know Silver thrives off of praise. He glows gold for a moment when the contestants praise him in episode 16, which in a way is proof that even his innermost self reacts positively to any praise. But across the whole season, he's reacted positively to praise and does everything he can to seek it, especially Candle's. His flame was literally born from Candle's praise, which means receiving the opposite from her in episode 18 would have made the inner flame lose control, knowing it couldn't get what it desires most. And we've seen Silver's inner flame activate strongly at emotions like frustration and helplessness. So let's compare episode 15's confrontation with episode 18's. In episode 15, the confrontation ends with Candle telling him to tend to his inner flame, that he is worth so much without her. She positively affirms him and this ignites the inner flame. So why, in episode 18, when he's essentially won the game already, favouring the jury, is it not enough for him? Why does he still need Candle's vote? His inner flame powers worked, or in its exact words, trained to fully form by the time they saw her next, all in order to impress her. At this point we've established that the game and Candle mean different things to him, they are not one and the same. Time and time again, Silver has chosen Candle over the game. Which is why, when she confronts him this time, it hurts. He's visibly hurt but pushes Cabby away and lies to cover up how he really feels about it. Because he's not working to impress the jury, he's working to impress her. And when she calls his ego disgustingly self-inflated and scolds him for misusing something that means great importance to her, when she refuses to vote for him despite everything they went through in the game, and despite him choosing her over the game, the inner flame awakens. And when it takes over, it becomes clear to us that none of this was for the game. It was all for her. In a fit of rage, Silver's inner flame kills Candle's. I say kill very lightly, it's not confirmed yet, but it's not looking good either. He punched out her inner flame, her soul. We've seen that Candle is still able to function properly after her outer flame is blown out, and in place of that the inner flame can take over. But we've never seen Candle's inner flame go out, and the implications of that don't sound very good on paper. So for the sake of simplicity and preparing for the worst, Candle is dead. As important as it is that he's pretty much killed Candle or hurt her beyond immediate repair, especially with Miphone currently held hostage, we need to pay attention to why. He initially plans to use his powers to help her, but as soon as they're activated, the well-intentioned Silver is no longer in control. And out comes the desire for Candle personified, already angered by her rejection. Uncaring about the rest of the contestants as it always has been, it goes straight for Candle and helps her. After a moment of Candle giving it instructions, orders to follow, it reacts and confronts her for not voting for Silver. But here it slips up. It exposes its true purpose for existence.
After his hours upon hours of training, because he trusted that you believed in him.
Here is the definitive proof that his flame is not an ordinary flame. It's a flame that has been harvested and trained for one purpose and one purpose only, to fulfill Candle's belief in him. She begs him to stop, to control his flame and to not let it cloud his mind. But how can he not when it is his mind? Silver consciously works to impress her, especially in this episode. He meditates in front of her and before the jury, tries to get the jury to laugh and love him, and it hurts when she rejects him. This is not just the inner flame. This is Silver Spoon. Silver knows he is not nothing without her, but he doesn't want to be something without her. We know this is true because despite Candle telling him that he is not nothing without her, his inner flame still says that he felt like nothing. The same line also proves Silver's struggle with insecurity and insufficiency. The powers make him feel like he's more than nothing. The powers that Candle taught him make him feel worth something. And the proof of that? His body turning gold. See how it comes full circle? When he comes back to consciousness, he looks at her body and looks back to the jury as if to say, I did that? There's no immediate yelling or exaggerated reaction, it's just blank shock. As if he knew this was coming but didn't know what he was truly capable of. I think when he lied and said our flames need not be entwined, his inner flame took that a little too literally. It's too late, their destinies are entwined, but the only way to break that connection would have been to kill hers. Let's take a break from talking about Silver for a while. As much as I know he'd love how much attention we're giving him, let's talk about the object of his desires a little more. The series doesn't really go into Candle's perspective of the relationship all that much. The only times they really do are in episode 15, when she's visibly put off by him being attached to her, and spends the episode trying to prove his worth to him. But we do know she cares deeply about him, because she enjoys being around him and talking to him, she values his opinions, and she gives up her game just to prove that he's worth something. So let's do a little deep dive and figure out where she stands. Candle immediately goes for Silver in the beginning of the challenge because she claims she's foreseen that he's destined for a leap of faith. And leap of faith he takes. As I said before, Candle does a lot more calculation than we give her credit for. She's one of the smartest players in the game. One of the players with the most control over others and herself. She showcases this when she leads the Thinkers, notably in episode 2 when she even manages to control Silver, redeeming Flory to him seconds after he insulted him. So we can't rule out the possibility that Candle was being serious, and that she knew from the get-go that her and Silver were destined for a story together. Candle purposefully goes out of her way to train and help guide the two wild cards on their team, Yin Yang and Silver. For Yin Yang, she helped the two halves find peace within each other. But for Silver, who is so insecure that he hides behind a wall of arrogance, struggles to make genuine friends and only cares about the game. How do you help him? We're given the impression from episode 4 and the aura she notes down for him that she believes there is a longing for spirituality within Silver, a desire to find his inner flame, which she uses to help others. So she could just very simply see a chance to help him fulfill that. But by the end of episode 4 in the elimination, Silver's affirmation seeking is obvious to her and she shuts him down. Now, she knows the power she holds over him. I mean, listen to the way she says his name.
Silver Spoon. May I have a word?
You don't say a person's name like that if you don't expect to have some sort of authority over them. From this point onward though, her reactions determine how Silver feels. She tells him to step down, and he does. She thanks him for helping the team, he appoints himself leader. She gets angry at him for flipping sides, and he's afraid. Her knowledge of this attachment is very clear in episode 11, when she asks him the fateful question, have you outgrown me? In her exit interview, she says she was so sure that he would move on like the rest of them, but found it interesting that he hadn't. and was also interested that he had changed as a person when she got eliminated. But she can read him like a book. She calls him out for lying a lot, despite him not obviously lying to her since episode 4. She seems to be the only person who can see through this facade. For this reason, even by episode 18, she doesn't think he's ready for the full inner flame abilities. She encourages him to tend to it in episode 15, but is surprised when it's fully tended to by episode 18. Because she knows he's not stable enough in himself to train a second mind, a mind that feels feelings a lot stronger. Definitely not in that short of time. In episode 11, she has a moment of panic when she thinks that he might have figured it out, proving further that she doesn't believe he's ready. Despite knowing how he feels and knowing the power she has over him, she only ever tries to help him. Her intentions in episode 4 are good, to teach and save Silver, and in episode 11, she flips alliances with Silver, helping his alliance and abandoning her old one, knowing he needs her. In episode 15, she wastes her only chance of getting back in the game by teaching Silver that he is worth more than he thinks. So when she finds the teachings she sacrificed her one chance to get back in have done nothing but make Silver work to impress her more, going as far as to portray Yin Yang and use the inner flame for that, she rejects him, because she knows how much her vote means to him. She even goes as far as to literally leave because she would have to vote for Silver because the majority loves him. She withdrew the most important thing to him, which was her validation, knowing it would teach him a lesson. And as a result, Silver's inner flame takes the most important thing from her inner flame. What comes next? Well, we could end it here and just say Silvercandle is doomed by the narrative. But if the II team aren't leading us on, we have one more episode to fix this. And by we, I mean Silverspoon. It's very clear that Silver only cares about Candle's vote and her opinions of him. Even after close to certainly winning the jury vote with a whopping half majority on his side alone, he still wasn't satisfied. But at this point, I don't think Silver even wants to win, not truly anyway. Sure, prize and fame is undoubtedly in his sights, but part of him knows he doesn't even deserve it. It could have been Candle. Had he not taken the cookie or forced her to waste her rejoin challenge on helping him, it could have been her. Despite being told not to let the regret consume him, it has. After taking the cookie from Candle and essentially getting her out, Silver was forced to make a choice between the game and Candle. And though he continued to play the game, he played it for Candle on behalf of her. He used her gifts, his inner flame, he followed her orders, saying at some point that this is what she would have wanted. He even meditated and trained for hours in order to be able to show off his power in front of the jury, in front of Candle. He meditates at the beginning of jury voting day to prepare himself for this. By not getting her vote, it means he failed. His speech to the jury was all fake. He wasn't playing as himself, we know that. He wasn't in control, we know that all too well too. And most certainly, he doesn't think as highly of the other competitors as he says. Candle knows this. She heard it from him in episode 11. Why do you even bother with them? And you can tell based on her reactions to his speeches in episode 18 that she is fully aware that he is not being truthful.
Editing tweak here, I'm in shock. I had to record this literally immediately. I didn't notice this before, but he crosses his fingers behind his back, specifically during the shot in episode 18 that zooms in on Candle when he's doing his speech to the jury, which massively proves the points of all of this being for her. Crossing your fingers behind your back can be an indication of two things: one, you're lying, or two, you're wishing for luck. But here, I lean more towards lying, but he could just be wishing for the powers to work well enough to show her. But hear me out, hear me out. He crosses his fingers behind his back, specifically when he talks about how it could have been any one of them in his place. But it specifically zooms in on Candle. Why? We know why. Because had it not been for him, it would have been her in his place. I'm going to lean on Google for a second. I know this isn't super reliable, but listen to me. The first Google result for the gesture is lying while crossing one's fingers behind one's back is like lying to a human, but not to a god who can always see the crossed fingers. Based on her expression, we know that Candle knows he's not being truthful. She is his god after all. He's lying, saying that it could have been any one of them when him and Candle, the god in this scenario, both know that it could have been her. He is lying to the humans, but not the god. This aids the idea that the guilt never left him and he was playing for her this whole time. He does this smug little look after he sits back down, which I originally thought was like maybe the zoom in on Candle indicating some eye contact or something. But not only that, now it indicates a shared thought. A lie. I'm going to shake the II team by the neck for this one. You got me so good. Congratulations. My jaw is on the floor. I might never ever recover from realizing this so late into editing, but oh my god.
Even so, he continues trying to lighten the mood, to suck up to them and show off the powers. But why? Put simply, Silver only needs Candle's vote. Even if everything does get fixed and we do end the season with a jury vote and find an actual winner, it won't be Silver. He's blown his chance. He put on a show to impress the jury, and when it didn't work on the one he wanted to impress, he lost it. If he doesn't end this by getting her vote, and by getting it by being himself, it would have all been for nothing. The jury is clearly not impressed with what he did. He failed to save them all. He failed to save Candle. But there is still time. Their flames are entwined. Justin himself calls them the intertwined forces of nature. And Candle loves him. Candle loves the Silver that works with the team, the one that shows vulnerability, the one that comes up with his own ideas. She tries time and time again to help that Silver grow. So, do I think they're doomed? No, but do I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done here? Yes. But Silver can do it. He's the only one of the contestants still free that has the power to stop them, if he uses it right. I have faith that Silver, upon seeing how destructive his need for Candle can be, will learn to channel it. He will figure out the true power of the flame, his true power. Because now, thanks to his inner flame, he doesn't have Candle to guide him. He doesn't have her orders to follow, he doesn't have to strive for her thoughts. She's gone. He just has to save her. And then they will be equals. And I think this will get Silver the vote he strives for. But who can say, really? Episode 19 will be Silver's trial, to see whether or not he can really do this without Candle. We'll just have to wait and see. I've only rewatched II about 10 times maybe, but each time I still notice new things. Like, Clover gets taller after she gets eliminated. She's my favourite character and I somehow didn't notice this before. But it's a good change, I like it. Anyway, point being, there are probably things I've still missed after analysing this couple for a week straight. They do have such a complex relationship and I think a lot of people view it too surface level. There's a deep sense of insecurity and dependency that can't really go overlooked, but a beautiful longing on both ends for them to find a connection that goes deeper than the game, into their inner flames. Put simply, Silver needs a saviour and boy does Candle have a saviour complex. Silvercandle is definitely my second favourite pairing in Inanimate Insanity, so it's been really interesting to watch them grow and to see how much Candle's influence has changed and softened Silver, and to realise how insecure the Royal Spoon actually is. And I'm sure it can only get better from here, right? Right, Adam? Justin, I know you wouldn't let anything bad happen to them. Come on, guys. No, seriously, I believe in a Silvercandle happy ending. I think they'll work it out. It just depends on Silver now, and without Candle in the way, he'll have no choice but to figure it out. If their flames really are destined to be entwined, they will be. But episode 19 isn't out yet, so who can say? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am so terribly wrong and Silver will only mess things up more and his relationship with Candle will be irreparable. Or maybe she'll never wake up again. We'll see, I guess. Hopefully my next video isn't just one of me crying. We have to be there for each other in these trying times, Silvercandle Nation. Let's be strong. Thank you for watching all the way through though. I love going way too deep into things like object shows. My friends know how insane I get when a new episode comes out. It's been noticed that it takes me like an hour to watch a 20-minute long episode upon premiere because of all the details I analyse and how long it takes me to recover from some scenes. Episode 14, Nicklin, I will never forgive you. But I hope you found my interpretation of Silvercandle interesting. A lot of people will view them differently based on what they get from the episodes, but this is how I interpret them. I think Silver has some mad issues the way Nickel did pre-episode 15, but like Nickel, I think he'll work them out, and Silvercandle and Nicklin will both end the show with happy marriages. Thank you all for supporting my indulgence and my silly little passion projects I impulsively pick up. II is my favourite thing to dissect, so we'll see what happens after episode 19 comes out. That's all from me. I've been talking for a while. Big thank you again to my friend Yam for making the sprites for this video, and to the II crew for making the show in the first place. It means more to me than I could describe. Thank you for making such a special piece of media. Alright, off to go cry over Silvercandle some more. See you next random video essay or in episode 19 when Candle is dead.
In case you're wondering, I'm literally not over the fingers crossed thing. I don't think I will ever be over that. Noticing that during editing, after going on this whole analysis of why he's played the game for her and why he's lying to the jury, and how Candle knows that he's lying to the jury, and it was literally in front of my face the whole— I can't believe this. I hate Silver Spoon, so I hate him so much.